Hello, welcome to the channel. Today what we're going to talk about is product recommendations using AI. This is demo number 3. Alright, so this is part 3 of, at least a 5-part series. We've had 2 previously. Go ahead and check those out on the channel if you've missed them. And in this particular demo, we're going to talk about large language models and data ingestion and retrieval. Now, what you've probably seen a ton of, pretty much guaranteed, is that you've seen like chat applications of, ingesting data and then being able to like send prompts or ask questions and have the large language model return responses back to you. And obviously those are valid scenarios. They're quite popular. But what you may not have seen or appreciated is that systems can do this as well. And certainly as you hear more and more about agents in the future, that's kind of what agents are going to be doing is being able to issue prompts and then being able to respond based upon the return from the large language model. So this is what we're going to do today is we're going to ingest order data, and then we're going to have Logic Apps subsequently go ahead and provide some prompts, get the responses, and the goal is to be able to upsell a customer on a particular order by being able to provide product recommendations. Now, the other thing I want to highlight here is that, the core scenario here is fairly traditional. It's about, e-commerce order processing. Now, what I've done here is really taken an approach that allows for me to extend an existing process to include ingestion and retrieval. This is not a situation where I have to do something brand new in order to get all of this to work. So I would encourage you, as you think about AI and you think about use cases, is you probably have some use cases right underneath your nose, right in front of you. And so I would encourage you to start there before going too far down the path of trying to create something brand new. You probably have something already that you can go ahead and expand upon. All right, for those of you that have been following along with the series, you may have noticed a bit of a delay between Demo 2 being released and this video being released. And that was in part due to Ignite. So we did have the Ignite conference here recently. And this was one of the demos that was showcased at Ignite. So I wanted to hold it back just so that folks that were attending Ignite would have the opportunity to see it first. Now, here's the link. I'll include this in the description of the video. If you want to see the entire session that Divya and I provided, I'll include that link. And you will see this demo in that particular presentation. Now, due to time, though, I did sort of give a shorter version of the demo. It's about 4.5 minutes long. In what I'm going to show you here on YouTube is actually I'm going to go into more details. So I think this one will probably be more valuable watching this on YouTube, but there's obviously a lot of other content that might be of interest to you as well if you go ahead and check out the Ignite session. Now, one thing that we do get asked about when it comes to AI and Logic Apps is kind of what are the opportunities, what are some of the use cases, what are some of the sweet spots? Now, this is a general Microsoft slide, and it really talks about these 4 pillars or 4 opportunities around AI. Now, when we think about Logic Apps and where we play a role, I would characterize it as in these 2 middle pillars. So when we think about increasing employee productivity and well-being, that's typically your Copilot type technologies, right? Your productivity, you're in Word, you're in Excel, you're in Outlook, you're in Teams, and you want to either be able to summarize content, create content, review content. That naturally is a better fit for those particular tools. Now, if we think on the far right hand side, that is where we're talking about bending the curve on innovation. That's typically where you get into robotics, you get into self-driving cars. Naturally, Logic Apps, that isn't a great fit for us. But if you take a look at the middle 2 pillars, this is exactly in our wheelhouse. This is our sweet spot, being able to reshape business processes and then also reinvent customer experiences are naturally things that we can participate. Now, this particular demo that I'm going to show you today is really focusing on reshaping every business process. But, I guess it has an element of reinventing customer experience as well. But I think the next demo, the next video, will talk more about reinventing customer experiences. So what we're going to talk about today is order processing and the ability to go ahead and provide product recommendations. So if we think about an e-commerce situation, right? So we introduced the fictitious company Fourth Coffee earlier in video 1, and we sell coffee, B2C. We've got an e-commerce website. We accept orders. Now, as part of order processing, we'll go ahead and see if the customer is part of our loyalty program. And if they are, we'll go ahead and give them a discount. Now, what we also want to offer them is products that they might enjoy based upon previous purchases. And this is where we can take advantage of an LLM and basically ingest product data, order data, and then be able to use that data to provide some predictions or recommendations on what other coffee they should consider. Naturally, a customer can then choose to accept the upsell, or they can decline and move on. Now, just from an architecture perspective, we also have an ERP. In this case, we're just using Dataverse tables as a way to store this information. And then naturally, we're going to go ahead and interact with the customer. So let's go ahead, let's dive right into a demo, and let's see this in action. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and submit a message here. You can see this here on the right-hand side. Here we've got an order. This would represent the message coming from our e-commerce platform. We've got some header information, order number, some details, and then we see the line items, the type of coffee that they're interested in. So light roast, morning blend, and medium blend. And we'll go ahead and just click this run button, and we can see that this order has been received, and it's just indicating that look for email updates. Now let's take a look at what this workflow is doing. So we've got this exposed as an HTTP request. We're going to go ahead and just do a response. That's that acknowledgement that I just showed you. Now we're going to want to go ahead and perform a lookup. And this lookup is going to be against a discount API. Now, behind the scenes here, we do have a logic app that is fulfilling this particular lookup. But we're going to expose that through API management, much like we do have a kind of like a catalog of APIs that we can go ahead and leverage. Now, I mentioned before we're going to use Dataverse, so we're going to just go ahead and insert a record into the coffee orders table. And then you can also see that we've applied the discount if a discount is available. Now, we saw that we had a header information, and then we also had order details. And so that's what we're going to go ahead and do here. So we're going to go ahead and add the details, the line items, into a separate table, and we'll make sure that we've got an order number just so we have a linkage from that perspective. We're going to go ahead and do some additional sort of processing here. We're going to do a transformation. I've got data mapper behind the scenes. We're going to just transform basically the order data and the order details data into a composite message, and then we're going to basically go ahead and put that on a queue. And in this case, this queue is going to be called ingest to large language model, LLM. And then what we've got is another workflow that's going to dequeue this message and go ahead and do some, data preparation. So we're going to go ahead and perform some chunking. So this is the out-of-box chunking operation that we're going to use. We're then going to go ahead and generate some embeddings from that chunked result. We're then going to go ahead and select those embeddings, and then we're going to go ahead and index the document. Now, in case you're wondering for more information about this data prep, we do have templates. We also have blog posts as well on our tech community blog. So I would say we've gone through that in more details there, but this is sort of the traditional RAG ingestion pattern. Now, what we've got going on now is we flip over to our email, we're going to see that we've got this line items. Like we've got the line items, we've got the order, basically saying it's being prepared. Now, are you interested in these recommendations? So what we've done is we've said, okay, we're going to recommend dark roast and espresso roast, and this is coming from the large language model. So a customer can choose to either accept that or reject it. The demo works a little bit better if we accept it. So we're just going to go ahead and acknowledge that. And then what we'll go ahead and do is add that to their order, and then we'll ship it. Now, what does that look like? How did we go ahead and achieve or build out or get these recommendations? Here we've got another workflow, and it's called fulfill order. And so what this is going to do is just look for updates to like the orders table that we were manipulating previously. We're going to go ahead and retrieve the details for that particular order. We're going to go ahead and do another transformation. So we got data mapper in the mix to do that transformation. We're going to then go ahead and get the typed outputs from that response. And then we're going to go ahead and call this particular workflow behind this API that is going to provide product recommendations. So if we flip over to that workflow that's going to provide the product recommendations, here's the run history for the run that we just went ahead and saw. And so we're going to get a request in, and this is going to represent basically like our order and like the items, basically those line items that I talked about before. Here we're just going to loop through those and append them and create basically sort of a product list. So here we don't need all of the details. We're just providing it basically a concatenated string. And then what we'll go ahead and do is we'll get an embedding for this information. We'll then go ahead and search the vectors for, basically some similar data. And then we'll go ahead and get some chat completions. We'll issue some chat completions. Now, this is kind of interesting. So we're going to use the GPT-4o model, and we're going to provide some instructions to basically the LLM. We're going to say that you're an AI assistant with deep expertise in recommending coffee based on historical sales data. Now, we want to prioritize recommendations from orders that include multiple products. And here's we're going to basically go ahead and get some of that previous order information here. We're also going to say that we want at most 3 recommendations, and that we also want a JSON structure to be returned. And this JSON structure should have a list of products, and the list name should be called product recommendations. Now, this is quite important because we want to be able to parse this information. Historically, when you've seen prompts and you've watched some of these sort of more chat-oriented LLM applications, it's very sort of unstructured text that's returned because it's assuming that there's a human on the other end of that request and they can go ahead and read this information. In this case, we actually want to make sure that we've got basically a system can go ahead and read that. And so that's what we're going to do here is we're going to then return basically that response back to the calling workflow. Now here we're going to go ahead and do some enrichment. We're going to go ahead and check those recommendations. For each of the recommendations, we're just going to go ahead and do a query against our basically product catalog and based upon the name that was returned from the recommendation. And then we're just going to go ahead and append some information. So this is where we're going to get that image URL. We're going to get the product name and the product price. We'll construct an HTML table, and then we'll go ahead and send that as an email. And that was the email that I just showed you previously. And then so from there, the customer can actually go ahead and choose if they want to accept the upsell or not. Now, naturally, if we had a full e-commerce platform, we would probably present that right then and there in the web page versus an email. But, this is kind of a demo and wanted to sort of not have to build a UI. And, email works well to sort of demonstrate that. So based upon what the customer will choose, we'll either go down the route where we upsell that order and we sort of indicate that, or we go ahead and decline it. And then we can do some additional analysis if we want. And maybe we find that there's some upsells that don't make sense, and we'd want to go ahead and tweak the model from that perspective. The last step was we would go ahead and fulfill this order, and so we can go ahead and send a shipping notification, and basically the customer can go on from there. So that's a demo that is kind of interesting. If you think about product recommendations, those kind of happen all over the place, and this might be an opportunity for you to go ahead and include recommendations as part of your interfaces. I think what I've shown here is that you could have existing order processing, workflows in place, and you want to be able to go ahead and enrich those existing scenarios and include some AI. And that's what you can go ahead and do is perform that ingestion and then, find opportunities to do retrievals. And as you saw here, it doesn't always have to be a human doing the retrieval. It can also be a system as well. So thanks for checking out this video, and do look for the next video, video 4, coming in the not too distant future. Thanks and take care.